I got into comedy when I was 19 years old. I was going to college to be a paramedic. I was super depressed, and I had come out of the closet when I was around 15, 16. It did not go well. My dad's a conservative Christian minister, and so um, a couple years later, around 17, 18, I took it back. I went back in the closet, was like, just kidding. And so while I was in the closet, super depressed, going to college to be a paramedic, I was kind of following this band, a local band. The lead singer was a singer-songwriter who, her name's Susan Gibson. She wrote the song Wide Open Spaces, and she sold it to the Dixie Chicks. And I would go and watch them play. The name of their band was the Groovies. Anyway, and I was very inspired to see this female singer-songwriter on stage, and so I would not just watch them play, but I would try to hang out after the show to talk to them, because I wanted to know, how do you go from small town Texas girl to being on stage. And so, and I wasn't musical at the time. I mean, I played the banjo a little bit, but so anyway, one time after the shows, I asked her, I said, hey, I would like to be a stand-up comedian. Do you know how I could go from here to being one? I don't know why I thought that she would know that. But lo and behold, she goes, oh, that's so random. My bassist, his brother-in-law, just opened up a comedy club in Amarillo, Texas, my hometown. She goes, you should ask him. And I did. And he put me in touch with Kelly Moran, which just happened to be his brother-in-law. And I called him that week. The following week, I was on stage for their second open mic night. I quit college the following week. I quit my job as a dishwasher. I began telemarketing for the comedy club, seating for the comedy club, and I became their house MC immediately. And that has been my job ever since.
What did you learn about business and who you are from working at the club that early on?
Well, that's funny. Working at the club, I learned so much behind the scenes stuff about, like, not to take it personally when a club doesn't call me back, not to take it personally when a club owner kind of blows me off, and realizing that we had a full, 52-week roster of comedians coming through Amarillo, Texas. And we had to book a lot of cowboy comics because that was our demographic. And I learned a lot of bad habits in the beginning because I was in a small town that didn't really have a comedy scene. But since then, kind of looking back, I've got some hindsight about it. Like, I had a club owner that kind of groomed me into a comic I didn't want to be. And so looking back now, I know, not to listen to just everybody. Like, I can ask for advice, but I don't have to take it. When I want advice on like a late night set and someone gives it to me, I have to think, well, who is that coming from? Is that a man or a woman? Do I need to take that man's advice? Do I need to, like, is it a female? Like, do they understand what it is to be a lesbian comedian? And because when I was coming up in that comedy club, listening to all the people around me, most of them were white men with white male stories trying to tell me how to be a comedian. And I took a lot of their advice, and I just sounded like an angry white man for a long time. And it took a while for me to find my white lady lesbian voice. And because a lot of people told me, don't be a lesbian. And so I tried not to be, and it looked really weird when I look back on it to see me doing jokes as not a lesbian, because it just, no matter how hard I try, I'm gonna look like a lesbian. But yeah, working at the comedy club, I learned a lot about the booking end of it, and a lot about how cheap clubs are, and how little money there is in this business, and how there will never be more. And how this really isn't a business to get rich in. And I have known that since day one, even though I still think, I'm like, but it'll be different for me, but since day one, it's pretty much been apparent that there's really not a lot of money in this. And comedy clubs they've been dying since they opened their doors. So I don't know how they stay open. But it's kind of like, I don't know how any of us make a living, but I'm glad we all do.
And especially now during,
I know. It's like every time I see me and other comics that are still online, like smiling, I'm like, oh, how are we all doing it? Good for you. That's great.
Yeah. Years of training on how to live on the edge and roll with the punches, right?
Yeah.